Hello, everybody. My name is Jose David Garcia, and I wanted to present my case on the experience in the workplace, which can lead to increased work overload. Hi, so quick introduction to today's topic. Um, Worker stress and negative employee attitudes and behaviors is a topic that I decided to look upon. And worker stress is generally categorized as the stress that exists due to the situations that occur within the work environment specifically. So one such common factor includes worker stress is that of work overload, which is the concept that the job requests an excessive amount of task fulfillment to be carried out by their worker in consideration of speed, concentration, or their overall output. So basically how fast they're able to complete a task, how much they concentrate on that task, and the quality of results that they produce. And what happens because of this is the results in workers having to complete their necessities as quickly as possible, as efficiently as possible, producing as many quality results as they can, and results in a widely common source of stress through similarities born in how we physiologically respond to stressors. Essentially means that during periods of work overload, we experience increased heart rate or increased levels of serum cortisol, which ultimately affects our overall mental health and attitude towards working. So diving into the work-related issue I decided to look upon, um, a brief introduction as to how this is relevant towards the case study itself. I need to be able to explain my history with this story. So upon attending university in November of 2018, I applied to work at Old Navy, which is essentially just a retailing clothing and accessories store underneath Gap Incorporated, so an umbrella of family brands. And I was hired as a seasonal position, meaning that I would only really be kept for as long as they needed me for coverage for things like Black Friday and the holidays. So that meant I would essentially just be recovering the sales floor, refolding clothing fixtures, displays, helping customers with any questions, helping them with any concerns about an item, where to find an item, and interacting with them directly. But most importantly, one of the main things of my job were to help enroll people into our loyalty program. And our loyalty programs consisted of basically just phone numbers, getting people's phone numbers, emails, their names, and signing them up for that, and credit cards, which essentially encourages loyal customers coming in to basically come back and shop. And because of my excellence in recovery through 2 years of just practice and being there at the store and working my regular shifts, I was recognized among everyone else within the store, that I set denim standards and became the store's denim lead. What this meant is that I had been working for the company for more than 3 years, meaning I had acquired a greater sense of skills, less knowledge, and being able to sign people up for updated loyalty programs as a result of just constant practice of selling people these programs, requesting that they sign up. And more specifically, what ties into the issue in this sense is that within the months of June to September 2021, more than 50% of our associate staff at the store had left the location because they were either just graduating or they took up other jobs. And our store specifically, being a larger than average Old Navy, it was expected to be basically 50 people at that store, but it dropped significantly to only 23 people being there at the time. What this meant is that loyalty enrollments were stressed within our store due to the fact that loyal customers, it drives sales, it boosts our standings across our district, and with greater loyalty performance, it basically means like our store specifically has a higher status compared to the others in the district, and it helps our general manager. And what had occurred in me experiencing work overload was the fact that this large expectation and keeping sales and loyalty high essentially affected my job in being denim lead, as well as the fact that with less people meant that the skills that I provided was heavily stressed and me being overworked, role overload, both in the ability that I had in being able to get these loyalties and being able to perform my tasks as denim lead. And more specifically, one such instance that occurred was that I would be asked to complete a certain portion of a wall. So I would have to refold all the jeans on the wall, but I was still asked to ring at the registers in order to earn loyalty enrollment. So if I don't complete what I was asked on the wall, I'm scolded and criticized for not being able to complete that when I was asked of me being able to do so. Or if I prioritize working on the wall and I'm not at the registers, our loyalty percentages drop, and I'm also responsible for why those percentages are dropping. And the text offers a bit of context into this because, as previously mentioned, the way in which stress could be incorporated into the workplace is through common work task stressors such as work overload. And Riggio defines the idea as excessively asking an employee to complete their duties quickly, demonstrating a sense of concentration in that task and quality production of the results as efficiently as possible. And so these types of expectations lead to stress because the worker isn't able to keep up with the demands being asked of them. In relation to this, asking that both me as the denim lead and the denim walls be finished within an unreasonably short amount of time while still expecting loyalty percentage to be high will cause the worker to basically either sacrifice one or the other, inevitably leading to criticism from the management. So as I said previously, one thing isn't going to happen and I'm going to face consequences either way. And within the store, it is expected to be a 50 associate location, but again, having only less than 30 people at that store, more, not just me specifically, but other employees were expected to carry out like an increased requirement on top of what they were capable or asked of at the very beginning. So I'm covering essentially more than just what I'm expected to do regularly, and other associates on a smaller level are doing that as well. So the problem of work overload arises when basically these workers do not have the ability to complete a 4-person task on their own, for example, which leads to increased physiological symptoms of stress, perceived stress, leading to negative attitudes of being at that location, which can also in turn lead to voluntary turnover, only persisting this issue of not having enough people on staff. And diving into the empirical evidence, I found an article which observed, it was across an observational study. There was a survey conducted among 386 total employees as a part of a Dutch organization also working in retail, with a total of 122 teams being led through supervisors. The study sought to highlight whether there are key differences in passive and ethical leadership behaviors, which leads to a noticeable employee burnout due to role overload or that job ambiguity. So employees basically reported perceived relationships towards their supervisors, and it held a positive correlation with negative attitudes towards working if they viewed their leaders as passive, so not really leading or helping them in any way as they were fulfilling their duties, despite the basic go ahead and do this, make sure this gets done. And the observational study demonstrated that in order for ethical forms of leadership to happen in the workplace, for less burnout to occur, negligence by leaders in fulfilling their role as facilitators of social influence should also be corrected so that they stimulate more proactive behaviors and basically encourage employees to get more done and help form that relationship to be able to make sure they're able to do the duties that they're asked of them. So the study suggests that promotion of ethical leadership behaviors, one that will teach your staff when needed and actively engage with them to help solve work-related issues, would help with correcting work overload. And closing out some of the solutions as discussed previously within that article, and as we can deduce from the text, the concepts such as that ethical leadership are key in making sure that employees are well-trained and properly managed by their leaders. The origin of conflict could be also tied back to not having enough people capable of performing well in loyalty, and also just in general other duties at the basic level that are required as a brand associate there at Old Navy. And what this means, so if we encourage leaders to make, or how we can solve this is if we encourage leaders to make sure that they properly train the pre-existing and new coming employees, better performance all around could be achieved. And this doesn't need to be anything uniquely specific in the sense where it has to cost anything or programs need to be introduced. Simply asking that workers shadow other workers to learn how they might be comfortable with performing their tasks, or finding a way that fits them and being able to do well and understanding their own techniques and strengths could also play into helping them find a better solution towards this issue. And that comes in the form of that organizational coping strategy, and that the team has the potential to maximize skill through teaching and not simply waiting until employees are experienced enough, in my case, to perform at a certain level.